about the education really of the GIS careers these days and how that's changing with the changing field. So I'll let her go ahead and take the field.
Thank you. Yeah. Hi everyone. How are you?
Good. Well, thanks.
Wonderful. Well, I really like the title. I got invited. I'm very attracted to this type of projection problem.
Give Connie the credit. She gave us all the subtitles.
Okay. So I guess the title is projection problems not here. So how to prep for GIS career. And I would like to start with defining what GIS career means. Right. So I might take your input, probably start with naming some of the GIS positions that you think it's, get into what we call a seed or a best promotion that we can for a GIS career. Just name some.
Well, there's certainly technicians. There's field technicians. There's hardware, software experts, particularly with hardware in the field. Those that are focused on system, system development and management and maintenance. There's sales. We talked a few about these with Jessica introducing those kind of segments.
Yeah. Is there any position that would be a dream position for you?
Oh, well, I was really inspired by Dr. Katie Currier. She spoke in NOCO GIS in Longmont last year, and she did scuba diving LiDAR collection on coral reefs. So we invited her to be the keynote at the Elevations Summit in May. So come to Steamboat Springs, another plug there. But there's a lot of fascination that can happen in very specific areas. But I think part of our question, as we were talking about earlier, is that a plus for us to be specialized, or is that a minus for us to specialize, depending on what the expectations of others?
Yes, I agree. Thank you. Yeah. So on top of my head, and a lot of our GIS students graduate from our program will really aim for GIS intern, GIS technician, and then GIS analyst level 1, 2, 3, 4, and then become GIS specialist in a big department or small department, and we have GIS managers as well, right? So those are I see from and on top of that is really some other field that GIS probably provide in government and NGO organization, but at the same time also, let's say Black Hill Energy Company, for example, Colorado Spring Utilities, for example. So really, it's really not any specific direction that GIS can apply. As we all know that GIS is really wonderful, right? So having that, I would like to define GIS career is something upward pathway so that we feel satisfied in terms of contribution, in terms of salary, in terms of promotion. That is what I define as a career pathway, right? We do not start in one position. We have the opportunity to stabilize in that position for some time, and then we move up. So then, in terms of GIScience, I call it a playground. I usually use that term if a student would come to me and ask, like, for some brainstorming, some opportunities, and I often say, well, GIScience field is really a playground. And it is really a moving playground, It is continually breathing and moving playground because, well, when you think about it, like 10 years from now, is really, we are talking so much about digital presentation of things, right? And things here can be anything that you are interested in. How to present it digitally, how to store it, how to retrieve a good. But then we are moving up to talk about maybe when Esri is like 7 or 8 years ago, we were really talking about a lot of functionality in terms of data analysis and modeling. That is another phase. And then they develop into big data, right? When you satisfied with all of the data modeling algorithm, you are kind of like, oh, I'm so good at it. And then you are thrown into a big data era that you are overwhelmed with data, that traditional analysis modeling no longer work. And then you have to really fine-tune your tool and really understand, and am I reliable enough to provide any analysis with big data? And then now it's AI. So really when we are so confident in terms of data modeling and analysis, and start to really comfortable moving around with data, and someone come in and would say, well, hey, AI can do that for you. So then what is our role, right? So I see it as a constant moving and driving playground. That is what GIS science is. So for some of the, I mean, I don't know about you, but for me, have anyone heard about the UCGIS body of knowledge?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would be an awesome reference for me to really reference my skill set and also the different block of learning for any GIS, either in education or in the field or industry, to really reference against those building blocks to see what would be my skill set or how I would like to be within that.
Can you repeat that?
It's called UCGIS Body of Knowledge for GIS technology and GIS science and technology. So UC stands for University Consortium in GIS. And believe it or not, that version is evolving too. Have anyone looked at 1996? Maybe you see it? Yeah. I often share with my class. 1996 body of knowledge. It is like 2 page or maybe 1 page with maybe 7 block, colorful block.
It's like a pyramid. Maybe I can find a picture of it.
Exactly. And then 2000, about 2000, I think, it actually evolved into 2 page PDF with so many data mining, knowledge discovery is entering in, right? And a lot of geovisualization, geocomputation, web GIS. And then now they no longer be able to fit into a PDF. It's online now.
Yeah.
So if you look online, you search for it online, you will see
awesome.
GIS science community worldwide contributing to that body of knowledge. And they are divided into different topics that we can search about it. We can look up the article, the short article that attributing into each of these topic and each definition. So that would be an excellent reference for all of us in GIS field to actually take that as a reference to position ourselves. And so that is my second point. And then I really would like to talk about it. My third point is how each of us as an individual would position ourselves or project ourselves into that continually, moving and driving playground, right? If we jump from one position to the other and we are hold up to something which is not stable, we are very much likely to be knocked down for sure. So as each of us, I think, even for myself, I also have to constantly think about in that dynamic playground, what position I can find. So that based on my strength, of course, and my unique capability to be able to stabilize and then further develop. So that is how I see it. Whether I mean, Nathan have been asking me to talk about different level of education going into the field of GIS. Whether we are, graduate with the only GIS certificate, or we are graduate with a Master of Science in GIS or PhD in GIS. It's really about not only about our education, but also about our strength and our unique capability to play well in that playground. That is, and I mean, different person might find that differently based on the individual context. But that often I found is a strategy to be not only in GIS and any field. So yeah, I should be stopping there. Oh, I already took 10 minutes. So I'm open up for questions and happy to hear your feedbacks. Thank you.
I'm so sorry for interrupting. I just am trying to post the URL for the GIS technology body of knowledge. But yeah, I find that I like your idea of a playground. I wish employers would understand that that is what GIS can be. That it is because most often they're looking at it as a tool, like Jessica said earlier, that it's a screwdriver or a hammer or a wrench. When we see it as a Swiss Army knife or what is it, that the universal tool that they have in
Screwdriver?
what am I thinking? I read this juvenile novel with my son about the time traveling pajamas, and they had this universal tool that could become anything. That is yeah, GIS can do all of these different things. And I think that's, as practitioners, we want to be able to not do all the things, but do the most applicable things to the needs of our organizations, right? We're applying whatever it might be to make something good happen. And yet, not all of those, at least when we're coming to a position description or sometimes to an interview, do we feel like the employer understands that that is the capability that GIS and GIS people in particular can accomplish? They instead are looking for that hammer or for that specific Allen wrench size, and I think that's what we're struggling with.
So
Yeah. Okay, it's a very question.
yeah, as AI becomes more prevalent in all fields, especially GIS, where do you see the most value for us as humans being in that equation and the value to employers or organizations?
Yes, that is an excellent question. So you took our certificate in UCCS, and you know the wide range of the courses that we do. For example, Python programming in GIS, spatial database that teach you how to use Postgres GIS, for example, or some of the courses that I potentially see a lot of, AI capability to be able to automate. So another course from an education perspective, really I should propose to teach or provide is AI augmented GIS. And in that course, will the student have to be equipped with knowing exactly what AI can do? They can write Python script for you. They can write SQL for you. They can, if you give them all of the data, they can actually analyze it for you. Often the case in industry, we cannot do that because it then becomes, privacy violation. So most of the time that I see will be, we will use AI as an augmented capability, ask it for help. So you have to be a prompt engineer. That is so often now with AI, prompt engineer to actually to ask AI to do a specific small task for you, and then be able to, connect those tasks into whatever you want it to be. So in a way, if you ask, so do any GIS student later on have to know Python? Because AI can do it. If you do not know Python, you cannot use AI effectively.
I guess it goes to my skepticism is how well that code gets created, how much junk is inherited in that code, how adaptable is that code then to change into something else.
Exactly. So it's more about we need to control AI output and understand it and customize it rather than use it directly without knowing anything. So then AI will sometimes it make up content, it make it code because it cannot access to your data. And then you have to, okay, so my part have to be like this, and then my data structure is like this. So I need to verify that AI, the portion of the code that it wrote is correctly done, and then how I can use that for my bigger projects. So in a way, it is a helpful. Yes, it's there for you to utilize. If you cannot utilize it, maybe some other competitor utilize well, and they do the job well. So then now it is their strength, right? So yes, it's coming and it's going. And do you know that ArcGIS Pro is actually now in the phase of implementing AI inside Pro? So that means it's there. Yes.
Yeah, I think also the ability to communicate the results is going to be very valuable to describe what it's doing and why it's doing it.
Yes.
And being convincing of your audience as to why it matters.
Yes. So in a way, I do see now that GIS, if working with AI, it will be a GIS manager now. You have AI to manager. So before in the past, you have some GIS technician and GIS analyst, right? You communicate with that employee and say, hey, can you run this? Can you do this for me? And then that employee will run back to you, and then you kind of like accumulate all the results and present the final project manager responsibility. Now AI can repeat those and you become a manager.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but go ahead.
I was just gonna say, do you get any feedback from, people, employers in the field, about how education might need to change to kind of meet their needs? Do you get any kind of feedback like that?
I do have some feedback in terms of how our program can align with some of the standards, such as, for example, geo-intelligence standards, for example. So we try to, or maybe JSP professional standard, for example. So that is kind of thing, like how well our certificate prepare for the student, get out of the field, work some year, and then maybe aim for the GISP certification after some time. So that is a growth in education level. So we do have that. In terms of AI, we do not have yet a push from anyone to really change the course. But I think it is really our vision to get that covered so that our students be able to equip them better after graduation for jobs.
Okay, thank you. You kind of answered my question.
Mhm.
I was gonna ask you how curriculum is changing as a result of AI.
Yes, yes. So for example, our certificate have three required courses. The first one is Intro to GIS, where students get to know all of the data infrastructure term like shapefile, attribute, shape, and all of those, and get familiar with Pro, which is a standard software for industry. I know that it's not so much on NGO. And then we are moving up to the course for remote sensing. So that is so much on remote sensing data and all of these. And then we have another course on spatial analysis and modeling, where the spatial statistics come in, hotspot, cold spot, transportation modeling. And then we have a series of selection elected courses that students can choose from. Spatial database, SQLs, and then we have cartography and geovisualization. We have Python for GIS. We have data machine learning. And then we have advanced remote sensing. So I do see these curriculum are very well developed for traditional non-AI GIS. Because it's equipped very well. Students go out to the field. You can be GIS technician, or you can be GIS analyst, or you can be Python, or you can be GIS developer if you want, because it train you Python, JavaScript for web GIS, and it train you SQL for database. So it can be, and then student can go into cartography, geovisualization pathway, for example. But now with AI, it does not replace all of these costs. But what students are doing as an assignment or an outcome of the class, AI can achieve the same things. If it is getting a good hold on the data set and also the specific direction to go. So for example, ask AI to generate a PDF book that would analyze, let's say in here, every county of our Colorado state. For each map, have one county map focus on the status, economic.
So it might be helpful
environment.
in organizing the data.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So then it's about how to actually use AI for achieving the same project, but you again become the manager of AI to validation and to provide some meaningful result. So yes.
Yeah, so kind of speaking of that, it's more kind of a comment. I think I have mixed feelings about AI, and in one hand, like I think it can be very helpful,
Mhm.
especially, things like you're talking about organizing the data or like maybe extracting very specific things and from a PDF or whatnot. But one thing that I find really concerning, and I have to be very careful with when I use it, is that I really believe that in order to, there really isn't a shortcut to learning something like, and you have to go through that struggle to some degree. And I'm concerned that when people use AI too much, especially when they don't really know
Exactly.
the background of what they're trying to do. And so it throws something out there and it looks good, it sounds good, it sounds very confident, but
Yes.
I
It
don't
could be
know if
completely
it could
incorrect.
be,
Yeah.
it could be garbage,
Yes.
or it could be somewhat, you know,
I totally
kind of
agree.
on, but
Yes.
you know, and I feel like, you know, not to go too much further into it, but it's like it's kind of like the analogy of like lifting weights or exercising. Like if you exercise those muscles, they get stronger, and they get stronger based on, you know, being exposed to resistance.
Exactly.
And if we just get into this habit of continue using AI for everything, it's much like, you know, anytime you have a question, a knee-jerk reaction is just to go to Google and ask Google. Pretty soon you don't have critical thinking skills, and you're not able to like actually think, well, maybe I don't know for sure what the answer to this problem is, but I can conjecture based on, you know, previous knowledge or like the facts that I have at hand or that I'm observing. And
Yes.
so I think
That
there's a
is
lot
well
of danger
taken.
there, but
Yes, that is so well taken. Thank you. Because, for example, putting into my vision for the certificate, for example, if I would ever propose AI augmented GIS, that course have to take prerequisites of all other course. Special analysis and modeling students have to go through that course. And then Python and then spatial database, some of those fundamental skills so that they gain
So you understand what the right syntax should look like.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I think similarly, AI also is a very broad term, and that can be confusing.
Yes.
If it can mean deep learning, very algorithmic versus a large language model that I could consult with
Yes.
versus, you know, a front end of a search engine, or, you know, what are we talking about here? And I think what I'm hearing, at least from you, is you want to subordinate that role to you as a human, not that you're necessarily supporting them in a labor sort of a way, um, but when you know, I want to turn to those kinds of solutions when it's a problem that I cannot easily solve with human labor. If it's highly repetitive, um, uh, or if, you know, if it takes a long time to go to each website to gather this information from every jurisdiction,
Yes.
then, you know, that to me has value. But and it's a whole nother discussion. I'm sure that we'll have another time to talk about AI. But yeah, I think understanding what that role should be, as it's a consultant, but not a product producer for you, or it's not merely your prompts that can give a product that you can sign your name to, because that's not who you are. Somehow, yeah, the ethical guidelines on the use of AI in geospatial field needs to be clear enough for us to make judgment calls on what we do according to our own values and the values of the companies and agencies we work for.
And I would like to link that back again to the moving playground. That is one big component right now, right? And then how each of us take that personally to either try and take it as an opportunity to really sell for our own strength, or should we take it as another technology to assist us? So it's really again based on individuals and how we position ourselves into that field. We cannot avoid it, right? And we cannot ignore it because it's a really another component in that moving dynamic, right? We have to balance it away so that we can again stabilize ourselves. Like we plant the seed for our career and then trying to develop it from there. That is my take for it.
have you seen, so as far as like, do you, so, do you do mostly research? Or are you a teaching professor? Like,
I
How-
am 40-40 teaching and
40-40.
research and 20%
Um,
service.
okay. And so like in your classes, I imagine you've seen in a lot of ways the way that students do their work, submit assignments? Like, has that really, I imagine that's changed extensively with AI and like how does that work in your classroom? Like, are there certain standards of like you need to disclose?
Right. So for me, right now, I don't encourage using AI. Students use AI, okay, I know for sure. It doesn't-
Can you suss it out?
This is this. Again, going back to the email that you shared with me about, I'm sorry, I forgot the name of the person, but she said,
Go ahead.
she said.
For the
right?
colleague from
So one of the.
Air Force Academy.
So that individual shared with us a few skills that an employee would expect from from an individual GIS. I know the capability to do all the analysis, and one of the things is independent. Being an independent person independent thinking, critical thinking, and spatial reasoning, and be able to be reliable, right? So that is the most important thing of any job. We do our job and we can say that my job, the quality, I am confident in my quality of work. And therefore you should be confident and that should be proven over time. So it's really, I'm not worried about those students who try to use AI for, to submit an assignment because that is their choice. And ultimately, if they have to go through the fight, I call it a final fight. And maybe you recall my students sitting next to each other, they can be best friends, but really, maybe you two have to compete against each other in the job. I'm sorry, that is the reality. So then it's really think about it as you go enter into a competition and how well you prepare and how confident you prepare. That ultimately matter. Yeah. So for me, it's and be there in front of the classroom. I try my best to provide what I know and equip my student, but ultimately that is their job to utilize what I have and the dynamic field, right? To equip themselves. So
Makes sense.
Dr. Emile Davis from
yeah.
the Air Force Academy, and I'll post her response
Yes,
in the
please.
chat.
Okay.
But she had 5 points for the pillars. She described them that I often recommend my students, more often at Miami University than at the Academy, but still helpful. Applied experience, client-based coursework, demonstrated independence, the digital portfolio, and networking. Yeah.
Yes. So it's really about proactive, being proactive and trying to improve. Yeah, as an
Taking
individual.
ownership.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
What are the skill sets or the industries that you see your graduates entering?
Yes.
Is there a trend? Are you seeing one particular sector
We have
hiring more than others?
Yes, we have pretty diverse outcome. Many of our students work for the Capital County office, for example, government office, Corridor City, Corridor Springs, planner office, transportation office. On the other outlet would be some of the energy companies. We do see a few students who are working for those, like here, for example. Some not so many go for cartography specific, and one of our students are working for Washington Post, and then now move up to New York Times. So, but specifically visualize it, yes. But yeah, I mean, it's so many opportunities. Yes.